Hey, how you getting on? On today's episode of Hay Fever Misery, I check out the Mojotone BV30V. Mojotone first showed up on my radar after my Big Vintage 30 video when I started exploring different speakers. And the idea at first was to find out if somebody made a Vintage 30 that sounds better than a Celestion Vintage 30. Obviously it's evolved into something different by now, but that was the idea at first. And that's how I discovered Mojotone speakers. Mojotone have this British vintage series of speakers, and they're pretty unapologetic, I find, about what these are. Obviously, these are classic Celestion-inspired speakers. They have the BV standing for British Vintage 25M, which reminds me a lot of a 25-watt greenback. There you have the BV30H, which Glenn Fricker has been championing for many years now. Sounds like a G12H30 inspired speaker to me. And finally, the BV30V, which interested me most back then, seeing as how it seemed to be inspired by the Celestion Vintage 30. So, is this a Vintage 30 just in blue? Or perhaps something better even? I want to find out today. But before I tell you what I do, I want to point out that the packing of these speakers is fantastic. First of all, you get this speaker condom that's on the speaker here, protecting the cone. I think that's very nice. And the boxes look pretty cool too. I bought this at Thomann as a B stock. As you can see, I like to be financially irresponsible in a responsible way. Shouldn't really matter because this speaker was just a return. There's nothing wrong with it. But I've had this speaker for 1.5 years and today it finally gets its day. What I want to do is test it the way I usually test speakers, meaning I put it in this side of my Marshall 1960 AV cab, next to a Celestion Vintage 30 from the year 2000. My favorite Celestion Vintage 30. Sounds very balanced to my ears, very smooth in the 5 to 6 kilohertz region, which was very important in the big Celestion Vintage 30 video. If you want to watch it, it's on my channel. Both speakers get mic'd up with Shure SM57s using these cool gravity stands here that clamp onto the cab. The Celestion Vintage 30 gets mic'd up in its sweet spot where the dust cap meets the cone, which is about here in this cab. And the speaker I'm testing gets mic'd up in the exact same relative position at first to give you an apples to apples comparison. But if that speaker has a different sweet spot to my ears, I move the SM57 to that sweet spot later in the video, giving you both an apples to apples comparison and a comparison of how good the speaker can sound, at least according to my ears. As an added bonus and help you assess if the speaker is for you, I provide you with a few free IRs to download for you to do your own testing at home. One for the reference position on the Celestion Vintage 30, and however many positions on the speaker I'm demoing that I use mic positions in the video. I hope that sentence made any sense. Anyway, to my ears, the BV30V has a different sweet spot than my Celestion Vintage 30. The sweet spot to my ears on the BV30V is slightly further outside from the cone. So we'll be listening to 2 mic positions for the BV30V in this video, and you will be getting 2 IRs for the BV30V to download and do your testing at home. So with both speakers in, I take a few of my amplifiers and I play a few sloppy riffs and I switch back and forth between the speakers in editing so you get a direct comparison on how they sound. I think that covers it all. Yeah, I'm going to put the speakers in the cab, mic them up, and meet you back here for the playthrough in a couple of secs. Alright, I'm all set up. I'm giving the EVH5150 a bit of a rest today. I'm using some other amps because I can. With my new setup, I can access all of my amps fairly quickly now. And today I'll be using my Marshall JVM 410HJS, the Joe Satriani edition JVM. That's too many letters for me, man, because it's quite different than my other amps. It's a lot smoother, and I thought that'll add an interesting new flavor. And I'm using the PRS MT15 up here because it's new to me. I only just got this. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to get to know it a bit. This guitar is in drop C sharp, and I'll be using my Lichtlam Audio King in Yellow to boost the amps occasionally. I think that should cover it. Let's go. when the pinch harmonics work, that just distracts me so much from playing that I screw up, but I'm happy nonetheless. Let's see what the Morpho can do. Okay, I'll be the first to admit that riff needs a lot of work, but the clean shell on the JVM is really nice. Let's see how it does on the MT15. And I think that should do it for the playthrough. I'm going to play you some room sounds now. Those were recorded with the EVH5150 as usual, both the Vintage 30 and the BV30V in the room, and a Hesu Wizard 1x12 cab, mic'd up from a distance with an Austrian Audio OC818 microphone. Wow, that must have looked very odd. Anyway, I'll meet you after that for my final thoughts. Alright, what do you think of the Mojotone BV30V? Let me know down below in the comments. Is it just a Vintage 30 in blue for you? Stop. Gotta stop myself there because I'm about to say something stupid. Well, maybe not something stupid, but something I don't agree with anymore. Because I'm about to say that the BV30V kind of is a Vintage 30 in blue. And that it kind of compares to the Celestion Vintage 30 that was made between 2005 and like 2020 or so. Like a V30 with more 5K compared to my year 2000 V30. And I don't agree with that anymore. See, the way I form my opinions or the way I make my assessments about the speakers I demo is I make a bunch of IRs beforehand and I A/B them with headphones in a kind of closed off environment so I can really focus on the differences between the speakers. And more often than not, the impressions I form that way line up with what I hear in editing the video. But for whatever reason, when I did that for the BV30V, I must have had an off day because, to be perfectly honest, it sounded inferior to me that day. But after editing this for hours now, I don't feel that way at all anymore. In fact, it's most definitely very Vintage 30 inspired. It's like a different flavor of V30, but I don't think it sounds inferior. In fact, weirdly enough, both speakers, like my U2000 Vintage 30 and the BV30V, in switching back and forth, they both make me hear the irritating frequency in the respective other speaker, which is quite funny because, yeah, I don't know, after listening to the V30 for a while and switching to the BV30V, at first the BV30V has an annoying frequency, and vice versa. If I listen to the BV30V for a while and then switch over to the V30, all of a sudden I hear this frequency that I didn't hear before. And that's something I don't usually experience in these speaker videos. More often than not, my V30 just sounds really good, to my ears at least, compared to whatever speaker I'm hearing there. As usual, the blend sounds best to me, and I'm sure most of you will agree that seems to be the general consensus. But yeah, cool speaker. I ended up liking it quite a lot. Well, back to past me to finish off this video. Thank you. Anyway, if you like this speaker and you'd like to buy one, I have affiliate links down in the description below. Those help me an awful lot. Buy used if you can, but if you can't avoid buying new, please use one of my affiliate links. Also check out the free IRs I posted in the description and hopefully in the pinned comment if I remember to post it. If you like those, I have a Patreon as well where I provide IR packs for all the speakers I've demoed so far. So I think that's all I've got to say other than be excellent to each other, have a good day, night, whatever, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!